everything that happens in the world below has a root in the world above. At the time of Mitzrayim, they thought they are the root. They thought they are the source of power. That's why their ego, so to say, was so out of control that they thought they are holding the power. When Aaron and Moshe walked in, and in 1 second they broke it. Aaron came and threw his staff on the floor, well, became the serpent. They did a big deal. We can do that too. Threw it on the floor, they're also turned into a serpent. And then when Aaron's staff turned back into a staff and ate their serpents, that's when they realized, wait a minute, there's a power above us that is more powerful than us. That we're actually fed from a power that is more stronger than us. That was why the first act was not a plague, was an act of this show of the serpents. To prove to the sorcerers and to Paro, there's something more stronger than you. So now, with that, we can understand, and we'll be able to understand the root and the sources of all the rest of the plagues, how it affected them, what's the more mystical part of it, not the physical part. The physical part is we have difference of explanation, is that the Kadosh Baruch Hu, He punishes and He rewards in something that is called measure for measure, midah keneged midah. So all the punishments that Mitzrayim, that the Egyptians got, was a measure for measure. The plague of blood is because, if you remember, they slaughtered the Jewish babies. Paro had leprosy, he had tzaraat. He used to slaughter 150 babies in the morning, 150 babies at night, and he would sit in their blood, because that's what his sorcerers told him. You have to immerse in their blood. So they slaughtered kids from the nation of Israel, and blood was flowing everywhere. So the first plague was to remind you, see, you spill blood, so now you're suffering from blood. It says in the Midrash that when they used to slave them, half of the time they just made them work very hard, 18 hours a day. But even after work hours, they used to drive them crazy. And one of the things that it says in the Torah that they used to do is they used to tell them, go to the fields and bring us all sorts of shkatzim, all these little maggots or whatever, and make for us food for that. And the Midrash says that they used to tell them, go and get us frogs from the field and make us a soup. Like, you know, it's a pretty delicacy in frog soup. Yeah, in France they eat that. So because they made them do that, so they got hit with the frogs. Another thing they used to made them do, the Egyptians, they used to tell them, sweep the sand. We want the sand to be clean. How much can you sweep the sand to make it clean? They were just drive them crazy. So Hashem says, no problem. You asked for the sand to be clean, so you got hit with a plague of the lice. The lice were found in the sand. So the Midrashim explains that all the punishments, all the plagues was a measure for measure. But that's the pshat, the simple explanation. But there is a more mystical explanation. Why 10 plagues? Why each plague? What did it do? Had to do some type of an effect. Because now it's not the time to explain, but very briefly, before this world exists, there was a different world that exists. And what happened there? There was too much spiritual light. The vessels could not contain the light, and there was an act that is called Shvirat HaKelim, the breaking of the vessels. And this light that's shattered in many different universes got captured in the Klippah. And the power of Klippah was holding it. And Yetziat Mitzrayim came to reverse that, to annul that, to be able to break the power of the impurity and to remove the power of the godly light out of the exile. So the Yetziat Mitzrayim, the going out of Egypt, is not just a history fact or some historical event that we can now celebrate Pesach every year and eat matzot. Rather, there's something more deeper and mystical. So Bezrat Hashem, we'll try to go through the 7 plagues this week and explain the mystical part in them so we can relate with that. But in the meantime, what we need to take, I like to take something practical from everything that we learn, is that whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you feel that or not, we are all subject to the control of Mitzrayim. I told you there are very few people that are not. So some people it's extreme, some people it's less extreme. If you feel that in any type of way, some type of a force is limiting you, in any type of, even if you're addicted to your cup of coffee, then you are subject to the control of Mitzrayim. And it can be in many different things. I'm not talking right now extreme addictions, and I don't like using the word addiction, but we'll go with what nowadays they're talking about. But if any type of power in this world is limiting you, putting you in a state of limitation, then you are still stuck in Mitzrayim. So we have to understand that in order to annul that is to go into the root of what's giving the power to Mitzrayim, and that's where we uproot it, that's where we cut it. The sad reality, like I said, and many people say, oh no, I'm fine, nothing controls me. Okay, then when there's always going to be something that you can look and say, who am I kidding? At the end of the day, who am I kidding? I can't go one day without my cup of coffee. I can't go one day without my phone, or one day without my Facebook account, or whatever it is. That's a state of Mitzrayim. And sometimes you're able to go out of one, and then you're stuck in the other one. We're still in Mitzrayim. We're still stuck in this power that limits me, and it will be something physical that would limit me. And again, it can be something small, and it can be something big. The point to take from that, and that's why we're going to learn how to get out of this state of Mitzrayim, is to understand that it can only be done if you go to the root. If you don't go to the root, it will never work. And the way to go to the root, that's what we're going to learn, Bezrat Hashem. Doesn't mean we're going to have solutions, but at least to have the idea that I'm constantly under the control of this klipa of Mitzrayim. Until Mashiach is going to come. Once Mashiach is going to come, there's not going to be any powers of impurity anymore. Then we're going to be completely free. There's going to be real freedom. We're not going to be dependent on anything. We're not going to be sick or chas v'shalom dependent on medicine or anything else. But we're not going to be dependent on anything specifically, nothing physical. But we want to try to already apply that in now before Mashiach comes. And therefore we want to every day, that's why every day we're reminding ourselves the going out of Egypt, because the going out of Egypt is not an event that happened 3,400 years ago. It's me going out of my limitation. And I can give you now 1,000,001 examples. I give just an example with the phone or Facebook or coffee. Sometimes it's getting out of bed. It's also a state of limitation. Most people, when the alarm clock rings, you hit the snooze button, put the cover over your head. That's also. So, and sometimes it's how I deal with other people. Sometimes if a person is attacking me in one way or another, and I get affected by what the person says, that's also a state of limitation. Why are you getting affected? Because that person is verbally attacking you or saying things about you. This is what you care about, that somebody's saying things about you. It's affecting you. Sometimes people don't sleep the whole night. They're worried. Why are you worried? Worrying is another state of limitation. You worry? You worry? You don't think Hashem is in control? Hashem up until now took care of you. Now He can't take care of you. Worrying is mamash, it's equal to heresy. What, you don't believe that Hashem is going to control you? Is in control? That's another state of limitation. So again, you use your own imagination. What limits you? It doesn't have to be necessarily drugs or coffee or Facebook or an iPhone. There are many different levels of limitation. If I'm stressed, that's a state of limitation. If I have no trust in Hashem, that's a state of limitation. That's why I said that even if a person is very spiritually high, and he's not addicted to a phone, and he's not addicted to coffee, and he has these under control, but he might have other type of limitations, can be stressed, can be worrying, can be affected because somebody is talking bad about him in the neighborhood and is driving him nuts. Who cares what the person says? So we have to understand that we're all under some type of control of a limitation, and I have to use all my physical being and my powers to go out of that limitation. And that's really the Yetziat Mitzrayim. So the way to do it is to go to the root, not to deal with it face to face, because you cannot deal with the klipa face to face.